hear his views on his racist views. I want to hear.
Oh, you think I have racist views?
I do.
Name one thing I've ever said that's racist.
You said
one
can I
thing.
be a black person?
Yes, as a joke, because I don't believe anyone should joke around with that.
Don't joke about no shit like that.
Why?
Ever.
Why? I don't believe people should joke about being something that they're not.
Don't make a spectacle out of it. If you're here to do a job and be professional, do that on every scale.
But you said I have racist views. How dare you say something like that?
Because of the comment that you made about 5 minutes ago.
How is that a racist view?
And I'm going to the president because it made me feel some type of way. How about that?
Wait, do you need a safe space? Did I trigger you?
You asked the institution if I need a safe space.
Wait, so you're going to the president for what reason?
I'm going to the president because of what you said.
What did I say?
Can I be a black person? And
yes, in a sequence of questions where I said identity should not be fluid.
It doesn't matter. Now it's going to be a sequence of motherfucking complaints when I go to the president.
Oh, yeah.
Go, be my guest.
What's up, YouTube? Hope you guys are feeling good. Today, guys, we're back into a new video. Today, we're going to check out Kirk destroys race-baiting students with facts and logic. There's part 3. This is going to be amazing. I call him Charlie Kick because he loves kicking us. Let's get right to today's video, guys.
That's a racist.
No, you're the racist. You're the says that abortion lowers crime rates and blacks have the most abortions in the country. Yes. Not name calling. Wait, is it not Black Lives Matter or is it African American Lives Matter?
It's both.
Oh, really? Okay, I thought it was BLM, so I say blacks. Okay.
He was just okay, not too much, Andrew. Do you believe that you have some sort of privilege that skews your view on other people's lives? Because personally, I don't believe you could step in my shoes as a black woman and relate and understand the things. So I feel like it's not fair for you to choose what I get to do with my life because I'm a black woman in a white society.
What does being black have to do with truth?
Because there are different things that we experience,
like what?
and my truth might not be what.
What, you get into college easier than I do?
What?
Affirmative action.
Yes, you get jobs and internships that white kids don't get.
Oh, poor white people.
You have entire movements dedicated to your race.
We're so like,
Okay.
sir, do you remember the
Those movements are to get riots. You're crazy. Okay, salt.
Do you not believe in racism?
Of course racism exists. The Democrat Party is still alive and well.
Do you think people are racist against white people?
All the time. All the time.
That's his definition.
Affirmative action is racism against white people. Yes.
Okay.
And Asians as well.
And Asians, that's right.
So I do have a question in that sense. If affirmative action is racism, why are most colleges predominantly white?
Why are they most predominantly white?
Why are most colleges, public colleges, are predominantly white?
We're a majority white country. You realize that, right? So colleges are the depiction of the nation.
Okay.
And actually, blacks on campus are disproportionate more than their population in certain areas, in certain campuses, than their population. Because of affirmative action.
In HBCUs? Is that
Certain campuses.
Are you talking about HBCUs?
So, but let me just ask a more broad philosophical question. Why does skin color matter at all? Why should we care about it?
Because of the society we live in. Because of the society
You're dismissing anything that has ever happened to someone of color.
Let me ask you a question. What can you do? Or what can I do that you can't do? What law?
Explain how
Affirmative action is lowering of tests, standards, and quota for a quota.
You're an idiot.
No, it's not. It's the way it works.
I'm gonna tell you how it works.
Yeah, it's the way it works. I'm not going to entertain fallacies. Tell me
You
why?
won't entertain me because I.
Just let him
Why?
talk. We have to hear your fallacies.
Why does skin color matter?
Let him talk. Well, don't
I
call him an idiot.
believe skin color matters because of the society
He's not
we
being
are
respectful.
in.
Do you know how
And I
this
guess
shit
it goes
works?
into
It's called
critical
rights.
race theory.
Removing
Yes, it
rights
is.
Because of the
disrespectful.
society we have
I'll
lived
do it
in,
too.
race is a factor. If from the beginning of time race wasn't a factor, and there was never anybody who was oppressed because of their race, I feel like it would not play a part in anything that we do. But because literally less.
Oh, it's just Charlie.
They were interrupting you. I was.
Do you believe on black crime?
Do I believe in black on black crime?
Yeah.
It's abundant.
Explain, please.
Yeah, it's the #1 cause of death in many black communities. I mean, I'm just being honest. Like,
True.
He is right.
Okay.
So back to our previous argument that was interrupted. So in the sense of what, like I was saying, you don't believe like because of the history and because races have been oppressed, you don't believe like race plays a part in things, and you don't believe like.
no, that's not true. No. So, do you know who Thomas Sowell is? You know who Thomas Sowell is?
No.
I really encourage you to look. Thomas Sowell's great. He's one of the best black economists of the 20th century. Grew up in Harlem, and he's done the best research in the 1940s, 1950s, and 60s black community. And essentially, his argument is that black America was experiencing a renaissance in the 50s and 60s, despite discrimination. Yes. Now, the one part that I would agree with.
But, however, it's not the black community as a whole, it's Harlem's black community.
There were Chicago too, but let's pretend you're right, okay? The one argument that I would agree with, and I'm against systemic racism arguments, the one that I would say, you know what, there was something very wrong is when Democrat Lyndon Baines Johnson came in and destroyed the black nuclear family. If there was one part where I could say, you know what, that was unjust and that has to be undone, it's when Lyndon Baines Johnson went in through the Great Society program with the intent to destroy the black nuclear family.
Okay. Sure. So in that sense, do you believe the war on drugs also played a part? Or
Not
do you not
really.
believe in the war on drugs?
Well, look, I mean, I believe we should be very harsh on drugs, but I think I would give some merit to the argument of some government agencies peddling cocaine in the inner cities. There is evidence to show that. I'm not going to debate it. Do I think it has so for example, like there's one number that I'm fascinated with, right? Single motherhood in the black community was about 28% in 1945. Okay? Now it's around 65 to 70%. Why? Are we more racist than we were in 1945?
No.
Okay. So then what happened?
The war on drugs.
Okay,
the
fair
war
enough.
on drugs. The demolishing the nuclear family in a sense.
Right,
And
we
I
agree.
believe due to the history that's happened, racism is still very prevalent in a lot of this a lot of the systems that are in America, correct?
Yeah. So no, of course not. But I was actually caught by your shirt. You know, Malcolm X was super pro-life.
Yes.
I think Malcolm X could teach a lot of the black movement something, because more so than Martin Luther King, because Malcolm X, I'm getting there. Malcolm X, some people don't describe him correctly as being violent, right? That was a very small part of his literature. He was very big on trying to get black America to succeed despite the white liberal.
Yes.
And
not the white liberal.
He did say white liberal. Oh, you go look up the Malcolm X white liberal quote. And so I think that's interesting. Just think about it. Go look up what Malcolm X warned against white liberals owning black America for their own gain, which is exactly what BLM is.
Okay, so back to my initial point. Back to my initial point. You don't believe that my truth can be different than yours, specifically based on race.
Experiences can be different, but there is always a truth. I'll give you an example. We all might have 5 different opinions of a car crash, right? But eventually a truth will be revealed of what really happened. Does that make sense?
So you believe that your truth is the truth that you have found yourself is the ultimate truth.
I would hope so. Yeah. And I'm willing to learn.
And then make America great again.
Otherwise, I think Malcolm X could teach us a lot right now.
I want to hear his views on his racist views. I want to hear.
Oh, you think I have racist views?
I do.
Name one thing I've ever said that's racist.
You said,
one
can
thing.
I be a black person?
Yes, as a joke, because I don't believe anyone should joke around with that.
Don't joke about no shit like that.
Why?
Ever.
Why? I don't believe people should joke about being something that they're not.
Don't make a spectacle out of it. If you're here to do a job and be professional, do that on every scale.
But you said I have racist views. How dare you say something like that?
Because of the comment that you made about 5 minutes ago.
How's that a racist view?
And I'm going to the president because it made me feel some type of way. How about that?
Wait, do you need a safe space? Did I trigger you?
You asked the institution if I need a safe space.
Wait, so you're going to the president for what reason?
I'm going to the president because of what you said.
What did I say?
Can I be a black person? And
Yes,
when he didn't have an answer for that,
in a sequence of questions where I said identity should not be
It
fluid.
doesn't matter. Now it's going to be a seat with some mother complaints when I go to the president.
Oh, yeah.
Go, be my guest.
Come on, little Trump. Let's go, little Trump. Let's get it.
So,
Let's go, little Trump. Let's go to the president's office together.
let me ask you a question.
You can't.
Wait, are you happy that under President Trump, black unemployment's the lowest it's ever been? Are you happy that black unemployment's the lowest it's ever been?
Trying to catch people.
That's what I'm saying. That's on my way.
Organization.
Don't give that attention.
You mean the organization that's on 1,300 college and high school campuses?
He's not listening.
Absolutely, I just want you to.
You're just giving in. You sound like the anger. You coming at me. You sound like him. You let him get.
Like, how is America racist?
All right. Are you familiar at all with the concept of structural racism?
Yeah, it's a myth.
No, it's
So,
not.
so tell me why it's true.
Okay, so
Not outcomes. Tell me why it's true.
So the textbook that you hearken back to in the 1950s, right? I found one of those in Virginia. It was
I
in
saw the tweet. Yeah,
publication
I
from
saw it.
5. Yeah, and so when we think about like how do you design curriculum that's historically accurate that doesn't talk about oppression? That doesn't talk about one group being oppressed over the other, right? And so when you look at that Virginia textbook, I certainly don't argue that that's what we're looking at heading back towards. But my guess is if you were to try to write a curriculum that covers, slavery in the U.S. or the, Holocaust or whatever, and not, give the narrative that this group did this horrible thing to the other group, you're going to have to rely on some pretty...
But it wasn't groups, though. That's incorrect. Not every white person was a slave owner.
Well, that doesn't matter, though, because,
9 out of 13 states abolished slavery by the time of constitutional ratification.
I mean,
it's not like every white person was supportive. In fact, we had abolitionists at the time of the founding.
Exactly.
So why would you say one group?
Well, I mean, it's not. You don't have to have every white person.
No, in fact, the
right?
majority of white people found slavery to be reprehensible at the founding.
I don't know that if we would have polled segregation.
No, we did actually
in the 50s, we would have found that.
Let's start with slavery. 9 out of 13 states abolished slavery by the time of constitutional ratification.
Yeah, then why did the South secede?
Well, they seceded post-Cotton Gin for economic reasons. We went to war over it, though. To say that America...
Well, you guys, the South declared war because they expected Lincoln to ban slavery.
And he ended up doing it.
Well, not for a long time. You know why? Because he wanted the fight to be about national unity, which is a good way to, I think, come wrapping around, right? National unity. So like, the first few years of the Civil War, he did not expressly say this war is about ending slavery.
He got to it.
And he later got
Cooper
to
Union
that
address, he
because
said
the
it.
South was more passionate and the North needed
No, I know, but let's go. I mean, but you said something I want to focus on, though. One group doing something to the other. Like, that's just not true, right? It would be a small group of white people that exploited incorrectly a group of black people.
I think the crowds that would show up for the lynchings, according to research that I've read, numbered in like 5,000, and they would mail. They
But then
would
why
take
was
pieces,
slavery being abolished?
Pieces of like these people's bodies
I'm not supporting
souvenir
that.
them, right?
That's a
but like that is not a
pathos argument.
small. That's not a small group of people. That's not an isolated event.
Well, I mean, in certain states it was
massive
widespread.
Systemic problem, right?
9 states abolished it. Thomas Jefferson wrote in the original draft of the Declaration to King George, admonishing him for bringing slavery. The first ever anti-slavery convention was in Philadelphia, chaired by Benjamin Franklin in 1775. Thomas Jefferson got rid of the importation of new slaves
I
in
understand.
1807. Guess what?
Yeah.
None of that stuff's taught in our schools right now.
But don't you think that like there's a reason that a lot of the black community doesn't have a father, and it's because of systemic racism. It's because like black men are more likely to be in prison.
Oh yeah, so why do people go to prison?
For like a lot of the time it's because they're in poverty and they have no other way to get.
Okay, so they commit crimes.
Because
Yeah, but so wait, so wait.
Why do they
So wait, if you're
commit crimes?
So in poverty, we should give excuses for committing crimes?
Yes, because if they have no
like murder?
I did not say murder. I said I'm saying like if someone is stealing something because they have no money and there's no jobs.
That's so interesting. So you think most crimes are crimes of necessity in the black community?
I'm not saying most.
So like gangbanging is like a crime of necessity?
That I literally never said that. I'm saying,
but you're making an argument of crimes of necessity. Like they're so hungry they can't handle it.
I'm talking about like crime that has to do with like getting food, getting stuff that you need to live.
Right, but we have food stamps for anyone that needs it, so that doesn't exist. We have subsidized housing for anyone that needs it, so that doesn't exist. We have free health care for any poor person that wants it, called Medicaid, that doesn't exist. We also have welfare, cash, for anyone that wants it, so that doesn't exist. So what is it they're missing that they need to go, sorry about that.
Well, the food, like a lot of food stamps might not cover all of what they need, and also housing is like, there's not unlimited housing. A lot of people who are unhoused have to like go to shelters, and then they get kicked out of shelters because there's a mandatory stay limit. So it's not like you just get a house.
It's not a stuff thing, though, right? It's like if you need stuff, there's also tons of charities out there that can provide assistance. Churches, you will not go hungry in this country. You will not starve in this country.
Yes, you will. There's like,
no, we have an obesity problem.
Yeah,
we have an obesity problem, not a starvation problem in this country.
What are you talking about?
In State Street, if any one of those people went to the local Episcopalian church or Methodist church, they will get fed.
True.
I guarantee it. If they go to a local food shelter, they will get
Okay,
fed.
but I'm talking. Okay, housing.
For housing, if we have Section 8 subsidized housing in this country, right? If you want to have a roof over your head, you can have a roof over your head.
with like thousands of rules, and you can't
Well, yes,
do
of
any.
course, yes. I mean,
Like-
it's not ideal, but the point is this. So let's just go back to the crime and necessity, right?
Mm-hmm.
So why do people commit crimes?
I'm not saying why all people commit crimes. I'm saying there are people who commit crimes because they have no other choice.
Got it. So why is it that other people that are as poor as they are in separate racial groups don't
that's
commit
commit
crimes
crime.
at the same rates? For example, blacks are 13% of the population and they commit over 50% of the crimes. Why is that?
Black people, I would say, not blacks.
Okay,
but
it's not. I could say whites and you wouldn't care. So
Anyway,
hold on. Right? I can say Hispanics, you wouldn't care. So don't
I think
police
I might,
my language.
but whatever. I'm not policing your language. I'm just saying I would say black
Fair
people.
enough. But the insinuation is that I'm being racist. But that's fine.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
your opinion.
Yeah, but so black Americans are 13% of the population and commit anywhere between 50 to 56% of murders, crimes, carjackings. Why is that?
Well, what percentage of the white population is living in the same level of poverty?
Got it. So there's twice as many white Americans in poverty as black Americans. Not the same percentage, but still, if you look at white Americans in poverty, they commit far less crimes than black Americans in poverty. Why is that?
Maybe it's because when you're in a store, like they follow black people and they don't follow white people.
What about murder?
That is an excuse.
Rural?
No, but why is it that, like, just saying murder, why is it that black people commit so many more
white people
murders?
live in rural
Like, that's not, you're being followed in a store and you commit more murders?
Yeah.
You're making the rule, or
No.
I'll get to you in a sec, but
Okay,
it's not,
anyway.
it's not a good argument. But let me just go back to one thing you said. Systemic
Whatever, you're
racism,
good.
right? So the idea of systemic is that it's
Yeah.
within our laws.
Mm-hmm.
There are some black Americans here listening. What can you as a white American do that the black American cannot do?
Nothing.
Let's see. I could go into a store and not get followed. The police could not track me down on, like, when I'm driving. I'm less likely to get shot and killed while I'm driving. There's a lot of things that I can do.
Okay, so just be clear. So if you walk into a local CVS here, how would you guys be treated differently?
Well, they would probably say hello, and they would probably just walk, let me in and not follow me, and then.
So these are a lot of probablys. I don't believe you, but I'm talking about laws, right? So what in the legal code of America can you as a white individual do that the black individual can't? Because systemic means it's in our code, right? It's for example, like Jim Crow, totally get it. That's systemic racism. What is systemically your advantage?
Maybe housing codes, because I know redlining isn't a thing anymore, but there is isn't there people who are white are more likely to be given loans because of they have less I don't know, that's just it's back from redlining, it's a lot of the same stuff.
So I don't buy into any of that. So I just kind of go.
You don't buy into redlining, or you don't buy
into
that it's
redlining. I don't buy any of that stuff that happens. In fact, it's the opposite. Loans are now given favorably to black Americans in certain cities over white Americans.
okay, but let's.
So we
you
could,
think
because
redline?
of I believe in, I know redlining existed.
Okay,
I don't
okay.
debate that. Of course it has. But because of DEI and because of affirmative action, there's actually a preference given. But so let's go back to fathers, right?
Okay, let's go back to fathers.
So something happened to black America since 1965. So in 1965,
You mean the war on drugs?
right, well, so if that's your contention, that's fine. So in order to go to jail for the war on drugs, you have to be dealing drugs, right? Or you have to be caught with drugs. So if you don't
Which is one of the main jobs that you can have in a poverty-stricken. If there's no jobs, you're going to do drugs. I mean, you're going to trade drugs because that's the only option you have.
It's such a difference in worldview. You're making excuses for criminals.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
basically.
what an insult to poor immigrants that came to this country that didn't commit crimes
That worked
and
hard.
worked 2 or 3 jobs and worked themselves out of poverty and didn't decide to go deal coke.
Well, my father is a white immigrant from Poland, and he committed crimes, and he's fine now. So
Did he go to jail?
Yeah, he
I
did.
thought there was systemic racism. I thought that doesn't happen very much.
I never said white people don't go to jail. I said they go more, and you're saying that white immigrants are fine and they don't.
No,
I'm
that's
saying
far
that they
less
do.
actually. I'm glad he went to jail if he committed a crime. I think it's terrible.
Yeah,
So,
well-
but at the core of it, we have a difference in worldview, right? My worldview is I'm not sympathetic to people that steal, that loot, and murder, because that's a values problem, and I don't like making excuses for people that do things that are obviously destructive. Secondly, we have a problem in Black America. The biggest problem is not racism, it's the lack of dads. If dads are around, kids flourish. And you know who agreed with me? Barack Obama. Barack Obama used to make this a central piece of his campaign. He came to this campus back in 2012, drew like a 100,000 person crowd, and talked about how we need to rebuild the black family and put dads back. Why doesn't the Democrat Party talk about that anymore?
I'm fine with having fathers. I'm not against having black dads.
For sure. I'm saying, but don't we agree? Has anyone heard that mentioned on the national scale in the last 10 years? Yeah, I mean, we've heard about
Probably
like
not.
Yeah, and
Because
why
there's
is that?
bigger issues.
No, there isn't. See, that's the issue, is that this is what makes us different. As a conservative, I focus on, if you have family breakdown, don't worry about climate change, don't worry about systemic racism. All that stuff is like these crazy
What do
abstractions.
you think create family problems? Systemic racism creates family problems. If you take away black people from their families, then they're going to have broken families.
Okay, so,
She's
but
not
that's
listening.
interesting. How are you taking them away? Aren't they leaving? They're not staying with the women they're impregnating. So, for example, there are 13% of the population is black. Not every single person ends up in jail, obviously. And yet there's huge child abandonment because there's a cultural expectation that is different in Black America than in white America, which is it's okay to impregnate a woman and abandon her in Black America. It's not
based on what? What is that based on?
That's a good question. Where does it come from? It's just based on...
No, I'm saying, what is that, like, your view of Black America?
Well, it's not a view. It's true. I mean, don't take my word for it. Look at Thomas Sowell and Shelby Steele that have done amazing analysis on this. It's that in black culture, that is not considered to be a stigma. In white upper middle class culture, for those of you that grew up in Waukesha or Libertyville or grew up in Hinsdale or grew up in Naperville, you guys all know those neighborhoods. If you impregnate a girl, a woman, and you just like abandon her, that's frowned upon. That is a social stigma in upper middle class white culture.
And it's not in black culture?
No. In fact, it's glorified by the rap culture.
Hi, y'all. So before I ask my question, I want to clarify a point that y'all mentioned earlier. You said you don't believe in white privilege, correct?
Yeah, it's a myth. It doesn't exist.
Okay. So according to the Bureau of Prison Statistics from last month, 38.3% of our current inmate population is black. But according to the 2020 census data, only 12.2% of our national population is black. So if you don't believe in white privilege, how do you explain this disparity?
So why are they in jail?
It has been this way for years, since the 90s.
No,
since
why do people go to jail?
Why are black people in jail at higher rates than white people?
That's the question, right? Maybe because they
Yes.
commit more crimes than white people.
True.
But that's not true.
That's true.
It actually is.
They do. So every independent analysis shows that blacks have committed a disproportionate amount of crime. No one wants to say it out loud, but it's true. In fact, in New York, 52% of murders are committed by blacks, 40+% of arson, 60+% of drug deals. And so the question you should really be asking is what drives them to commit crimes? That's the question, right? The real question is, and maybe I can ask you, what percentage of blacks are raised with two parents in the home?
So actually, according to the Uniform Crime Report for 2019, black or African American individuals committed only about 1 million crimes, while white people committed about 4 million crimes.
So,
but that's
hold on.
proportion.
Yeah, how about the proportion?
There's a lot more white people than black people in the United States.
It's a 60% white country
Black
and a 14% black country. So you just proved my point. You literally, so basically that's a disproportionate amount of crime.
True.
It is.
But listen, I want to say, look, you are coming up here and you're asking the question, and that's not easy to do, first and foremost, no matter what. And I really appreciate your question in front of all these people. It's hard. So thank you for asking your question. But let me point out what you just did, and you didn't know that you did it. You switched from proportion to raw numbers. And you did that to make a point that you thought you were making, but you weren't. But look, your issue was that black Americans only make up 13% of the population, and yet they make up, I think you said, like 38% of the prison population. And then you switched to raw numbers because, so black people only make up 13% of the population, but they commit 40% of all homicides and 60% of all violent crime. Unfortunately, I don't think that's anything inherent in black Americans. That's not what I'm saying. That's just the fact. And what Charlie is saying is, look, we've got to look at why that is. So you're claiming that that disparity is inherent proof of discrimination. So would you also say the fact that there are fewer Asians in jail means that than white people, that there is discrimination against white people? No? Disparity isn't proof of discrimination, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. So let me just throw, and Allie's exactly right. What percentage of blacks grow up with two parents in the home?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't
less
have
than
it pulled up.
20%. That's why there's so many blacks committing crimes and they're in jail. It's that simple. The death of the black family is why blacks are in jail higher than their population percentage. It's that simple.
May I see your criminology degree? Do you
You don't need a degree.
I'm sorry.
No,
Wait.
we've gotta, are you a
We gotta argue
biologist,
from an
Ketanji
expert
Brown
thing.
Jackson?
So, no, let me ask you a question. So do I need a criminology degree to be able to understand that 75% of blacks don't grow up with two parents?
To be well versed in it, I believe so.
Do you have one?
I don't, but I'm studying it.
Okay,
right
but
now.
you
Oh, she studied it.
exactly. But you did the same thing. You looked at a statistic, and he did the same thing. You
Look,
don't have a criminology
Have you
degree,
even taken a
neither does
criminology
he.
course? Have y'all
Hold on
taken
a second.
one?
You're doing an argument from authority, okay?
It's a fallacy.
So the laws of physics don't change whether or not you're a physicist, okay? The law of thermodynamics doesn't change whether or not you take a course on it. Answer the question. Why do blacks have a broken family versus a nuclear family, and does that translate to higher rates of crime? Do you admit that?
Why is it that blacks don't have parents, though? Why?
Good question. We subsidize single motherhood in this country through the federal government of the United States. Great question. Now we're getting somewhere. Back in the 1960s, we put forward a program where black women married the government and broke up with the men they were with. Welfare state, Lyndon Baines Johnson, and that has contributed to blacks committing more crimes.
I believe institutionalized racism is your answer, but I don't believe I'm getting anywhere with
but
y'all.
look-
But
so-
no, just let me point something out. Did you know that it's not white Americans that have the lowest incarceration rate or the lowest rates of crime or the highest graduation rates or the highest median income? It's not white Americans. It's Asian Americans. They have the highest median income. They have the highest graduation rates. They have the most degrees. They have the lowest incarceration rates. And guess what? They also have the lowest single parenthood rates. Okay? So that is true across the board. It's not just black Americans. And unless you're willing to say that the reason why Asian Americans make more than white Americans or the reason why Asian Americans go to jail less than white Americans is because there is systemic institutional racism against white people in this country, then your argument against black people doesn't really work.
So let me ask you one thing. You said institutional racism. I got a black friend right up here. He's great. He's great. So let me ask you. Let me ask you a question. What can I do that he can't do?
Absolutely nothing.
What do you mean?
If institutional racism was real, what can I do that he can't do?
Well, you're less likely to get arrested.
Oh, jeez.
I'm sorry. No,
That's
if we
less-
both commit a crime, he's going to get arrested and I'm not?
He could.
Wait,
That's
so
a
we just
lie.
went through this. Blacks commit a disproportionate amount of crime in this country because of broken families. So give me one law on the books.
not because
You
of
said it's
broken
institutional.
families.
Give me a law anywhere that discriminates against blacks. Give me one law anywhere in America.
You want current or past?
How about right now?
Well, the fact that crack cocaine is criminalized more than regular cocaine.
No,
is
if I
disproportionate
deal
racism law against blacks.
if I deal crack cocaine, I'm getting arrested regardless of skin color. Give me a
But if you were
law.
dealing white cocaine, you're
Give
less
me a
likely
law
to get a harsher
anywhere
sentence.
that allows white people to commit crimes and get away with it and blacks can't. Does that law exist?
Not anymore. But that
Because
doesn't
there's
mean
no
it's not real.
institutional racism in America.
Because there-
The idea of institutional racism
Is it
is
not?
laws on the books.
Just because it's not down on paper doesn't mean it's not real.
Okay, give us an example. Not
God.
just a disparity. Not just a
God?
disparity.
God isn't. You don't see God.
He's on paper. Read the Bible.
I didn't mean it like that. I'm getting nowhere with y'all, and y'all are not answering my question, so I'm going to end this Q&A right here. Thank you for your time.
We actually did answer her questions, but I do appreciate, even though she's got an attitude, I do appreciate her courage. I do. That is difficult. That's difficult
Yeah,
to
I
come
mean,
up
it's
here and ask
difficult,
a
but
question,
see,
but you can also do it respectfully.
But what bothered me about her, I'm glad she was there. She wasn't being honest. At least be honest, okay, and be willing to be corrected. Well, that was a fun fireworks show to end our time together, right?
Saying this right now, I feel like a lot of America like gaslighting the truth. A lot of people like gaslighting the truth. You are saying the truth, but you just want to hide it. Starting from the first people who came over here, like, they were just talking. They just want to win debates. They just don't want to learn. You see, there's something about you debating with someone, and learning from that with an open mind. There is some certain things the person might say that, okay, it makes sense. Say the truth. A debate is not a fight. There's not like fights to win. It's ability to pass knowledge. Do you understand? So the issue we are having in black Americans, black homes in general, is that there's lack of fathers. Either you choose to accept it or not, it's true. Not just in America, in other countries too. Even in Africa, there are lack of fathers in the home. Men are impregnating ladies and leaving them. Either people accept it or not, is the truth. Women in America, government has subsidized single motherhood, which is terrible. A lot of women right now, they feel happy divorcing. Black women, they feel happy divorcing, they feel happy leaving their husband and taking funds from the government, which is a terrible thing. They feel happy divorcing and they split the money into two and they have their own part and they feel like they're independent women. A lot of them feel happy. They feel like they can do it on their own. They feel like they can train their children on their own. They feel like they're the most biggest feminists ever in the world. They feel like they're strong enough. But the gospel truth is that we all need each other. A man needs a woman to raise a child, and a woman needs a man to raise a child. You can't fill that gap. Even if you marry someone else, the child in his head already knows this is not my biological mother, this is not my biological father. You understand? The issue we're having in black homes is that fathers are either in jail or dead, or they have been divorced. That is a big issue. Like an alarm, something that nationwide we need to be screaming out, oh, we need fathers in black homes. Because this itself is destroying America. It is really tarnishing the name of America. Because you see children growing up without a father, without parents. Use Tupac. I use this guy as an example. Tupac is a perfect example. He wanted to strive up. He wanted to stand up as a man because it was only his mom that took care of him. Do you understand? It was the mom that was struggling to fight for them, to stand for them. Tupac had to go join some gangs. They needed support. You understand? And the guy, he had to buckle up early. Most of the people who, their parents, they are being brought up by single mothers, watch the children. They like standing up early, going to fight early in order to provide for the home. Do you understand? So, if both people are father and mother in the home, you bring up a great child, an extraordinary child. Do you understand? A beautiful, well brought up child. I'm not saying every time the children might grow up in a perfect way, some of them might go get some gang, but they have that moral aspects in them. That this is the right thing, this is a man's figure, this is the woman's figure in their lives. You get? Black are always complaining, every time. Whenever I see black people pointing out, shouting at Charlie that Charlie is a racist, Charlie is the bigot, Charlie is... They know he's saying the truth, they just don't accept the truth. It's painful, it's hurtful, but that is the truth. Either I choose to accept it or not, is the truth. Do you understand? So the entire debate right here was amazing. It was amazing. Charlie was just speaking our truth. Even when he was speaking with this professor, the woman was trying to gaslight him, but Charlie knows the fact. Charlie knows the truth. Charlie was a dropout, and he's speaking with the professor, and he's also winning her in the debate. Like every single person Charlie debated with, the other lady who was making excuses for criminals. Why in the world do we make excuses for criminals? He said because they're hungry, they have to go and steal. So Asians America who are in America, that they also pass through tough time like black people. Why are they not doing the same thing? Why are they not acting in the same behavior as black people? Because why? They have moral value. They know what it means to have a home, a father figure and a mother figure in a home. They have morals. They have standard. They are different from black families. So people will say education. Education is the reason why black are like this. Most of them are not educated. It's not just education. It's about home bringing. It's about parental aspects in their lives. They don't have fathers, which is a big factor, a massive factor. Do you understand? So whether they choose to accept it or not, we all know the truth. And black, they hate acknowledging this. Black Americans, They hate acknowledging this. Listen to our rap song. Listen to our rap artists. Like, if you listen to them, you'll be like, what? NBA, I use that guy as an example every time. Like, listen to NBA. Someone who has almost 11 kids. 11 from different baby mamas. That is crazy. I'm not saying he's not a good person, but the legacy escaping is terrible. It's not having... What kind of children do you want to bring up? No, tell me. What kind of kids does he feel like he's trying to nurture up from different mothers? There will certainly be issues. 100%. And he's still a young guy. To eventually speak about this, people try to gaslight him and say he's lying. But when you check stats, when you check what is really happening, it's the truth. And most of all this CRT debates, most of all this DEI conversation that they normally have, conferences, they normally have, black people have conference, they don't talk about the main issues in black families, that fathers are not at home. Fathers are not always around. They don't talk about it. So when you listen to Charlie brings enlightenment to you. It shows you the right direction. Either people choose to accept him or not, he's saying the truth. And those that know the truth, we align with it. Comment down below what you think about this video. Give us a thumbs up. Share this video to as many as can. Subscribe to our channel, guys. Black can also be like Asians if they choose to accept the moral value. We'll see you guys in the next video. There's a lady who said she wants to go report to the school authority. That lady right there, she's a racist in this video. That young lady who was talking bullshit. Comment down below, guys. We'll see you guys in the next video.